panel is all about tech for good and what can tech resolve in our problems in this century, in this age, and set up in a better position for the future. When we talk about tech for good, the first thing we ask, we assume it's basically about solving problems. It's developing applications and ways to deal with issues that plagues the world, like climate change, or affordable healthcare, or medicines for some diseases. I want to start with Himanshu and ask you, how do you define tech for good? And how do you evaluate, how should the world evaluate whether a company is doing tech for good or is just a slogan?
Yeah, thanks, Zainab, and it's great to be here. I'll talk about tech for good, and I will also talk about tech for bad and tech for ugly. Yeah. So the way I understand tech for good is, if a technology is optimized for, of course, profits, and don't get me wrong, we have to be practical. It has to be optimized for producing profits, people, and planet. 3 Ps. You can't work for all 3. So at least it has to be optimized for either people or planet in addition to profits. One example of that would be, for example, the work that we do on helping crop seed companies launch climate-resilient seeds faster and cheaper to the market for farmers, especially in the countries where they're struggling with climate change. So that's tech for good angle. And let me talk about tech for bad and tech for ugly, where if you're a technology producing profits, it's great. No one is judging you. But if it comes at the expense of people or planet, then it's bad or ugly. If it comes at the expense of both of them, then that's the ugly part. One example of that is Instagram, and I hope I don't get blocked for it.
This is controversial.
Yeah, it's impacting the mental health of the teenagers, right? In a ways that we don't still understand. That's the most dangerous part. And also, like, it's promoting consumption behavior of, like, you want to buy the next cloth or the next fashion brand next day, and it's bad for the planet as well.
I guess a lot of it depends on for whom, right? Because some small businesses that use Instagram as a way to market low cost, they would say this has been good for their businesses and their livelihoods, right? I wanted to move on to Mr. Hamad, and I want to ask you about this question. You have been an entrepreneur. You looked at many different companies and been a founder of several. How do you make an assessment? How do you judge which one is worthy of your effort and time and money?
Excellent question. First, if you want to do positive change, you have to be online. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Which means if it's not tech solutions, mostly you cannot help the world or the people for something better. But here's what I believe. Before, I would say when entrepreneurship, innovation, technology all start at 2000, it was basically clear value proposition. It's just one problem, one solution, and you're going to build a business model. Today, it's became harder, the innovation. You need to look to 5 problems and come with 5 solutions. I need to bundle the solution to come with an innovative business model. I can give you an example. We hear about all this great e-commerce and delivery happening in the world. But none of them think about their logistic partner or agency or driver at the summer, or if the weather is not good. They always have to do the job no matter what. We are the only and the first company that they shut down any bike and bicycle delivery in the summer. And that's what I believe. You have to think about people. You have to think how we can make positive impact of every stakeholder. The customer, of course, from profitability, it hit us a little bit.
Right.
But do we need to maximize? The question is, it's good to be profitable, but sometimes when your main driver is maximizing the profitabilities, it can be bad also. So we have to measure 360, all the stakeholder, from the customer agent health who answer angry customer calls to the customer succession. Also, another thing as example, we believe most of the tech companies, what they care about, they want to hire cheap engineer. They never think about the society. What we've done, we are the first company that we are actually in 4 years in a row, we're the highest recruiter from Qatar Foundation. We hire engineers, even if they are expensive. It's okay. We want to be here. We want to help the people. We want to give jobs to those young leaving universities. So here what I believe, you have to look to everyone, not just the customer.
Yeah.
You have your decision should not be based on purely investment and maximizing the profit. And here you're going to build a sustainable business, because the moment to be honest, I learned this from Japanese.
Yeah.
Their companies last for 200 and 250 years. And I lived there 3 years. And if you build a company that you look to all the ecosystem, all the society, with stable profit, not the maximizing, but a stable profit, you can last for long, you can help the people, and you can help the planet, you can help everyone. I can just give you one small example. What about students somewhere in the world that does not have a money to go to school, universities? So here in Qatar, we have education above all.
Yeah.
How much effort it takes Snoonu to donate for them? Nothing. We just add one button in the checkout. Just add 10 riyal in your basket, and that money will go to those students. Especially, we have our activity here in Africa that will have this opportunity to go to the university or the school. And it's take us just one button. And here's what I believe. You have to think about everyone. You have to think there was much for Hub, and we donate 1 million riyal. But if the business keep looking to everyone and consider everyone, I believe this is sustainable. Not the best profit, but acceptable profit.
It's valuable because you are basically saying we can't look at it as just sector-based type of choice, but also choice in how you run typical businesses in maximizing your effort to do good for society. Ms. Ola, I wanted to ask you about your company, and you invest in healthcare in Africa in one of the areas that definitely has a lot of need, and there will be needs the capacity. How do you go about that, and how has been your journey in terms of finding companies and finding startups?
Okay, so I can talk about my journey first and how it led me to investing in startups. I grew up in the UK had never traveled to Africa as an adult. And after graduating from medical school, I realized that there was a big gap between the medicine that I could practice in the UK as a physician and medicine in other parts of the world. So I decided to move. My sort of focus was emergency medicine, so I decided to move to Africa. My parents are from Nigeria, but I'd never been as an adult, and my parents still lived in England, so it was a big step. And just like on the last panel, that conversation with your parents after sort of 6 years in medical school saying, well, I want to go and be an entrepreneur, was a very, very difficult conversation. But I think how I convinced them was saying that, you know, in the worst case scenario, if I fail, I'll still be a doctor and I'll just go back to my clinical practice. And it's still a prestigious job, so you can still have the prestige even if I fail at the business. So I started the business, which became one of the largest emergency services providers on the continent, working in 40 out of 54 African countries, 5,000 emergency requests per year. And in 2016, I had a liquidity event. So when I had sort of the first cash out of the company, I started thinking about how difficult it was for me to raise capital. The first time I raised capital was when we were already a multi-million-dollar organization flying to a lot of countries. And even then, when I went to the bank, I needed a 200% cash collateral.
Wow.
So I started imagining what it was like for entrepreneurs who had great ideas had no money to start their companies. And where were they going to get this 200% cash collateral? So I started a venture firm raised from African HNIs and family offices in 2016. That did a DPI of 5x, so meaning that we're able to return 5 times the money that investors gave us. We're the first investors in 2 of the most successful companies out of the continent. Paystack, which was valued at about $1 million when we invested. We exited at a $200 million valuation when it was acquired by Stripe. And Flutterwave, we entered at a $2 million valuation, and that's about to list on the NASDAQ for $3 billion. Wow. So really talking about tech for good means a lot of things for me based on my journey. Number one, tech for good means profitability, because it's profit that provides jobs. In fact, I don't know any non-profit that is, it's so non-profits only get money from people's profit. So people have to have profit before there's a non-profit. So I think that tech for good for me means profitable companies. Number two, for me personally, it means impact.
Yeah.
And it means making impact in people's lives and livelihoods. And anybody at my stage in life, so 30s, is watching their parents kind of gradually age and wondering, you know, how can we innovate around that and make their lives better, more productive as they go into their later years. So healthcare to me is very, very personal, but also, you know, thinking about how these innovations can come from this region.
Yeah.
So thinking about how Africa and the Middle East can collaborate to have intellectual property, healthcare innovations, cures for cancer, arthritis, chronic diseases actually coming out of this region as opposed to us being recipients of that. So tech for good means impact and it means innovation, it means profit, it means jobs, and it means productive lives. And not only adding years to our lives, but also life to our years. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamer, I wanted to ask you, first of all, your company is promising something innovative when it comes to healthcare. Can you tell me a little bit about the challenges in this environment? And you're at a situation where you had some success recently, but there are a lot of other companies with needs, and the market right now, fundraising is difficult. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how did you overcome the obstacles that you faced?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're focused on doing at Aspect Biosystems in Canada is 3D printing living human tissues for transplantation. And that sounds like science fiction. And so one of the biggest challenges when we first started off was just being taken seriously for what we were proposing. But of course, over the years, the last several years, we've been turning science fiction into science fact through the creation of tissues that are functional, that could replace damaged function inside of the body. One of the big areas that we're focused on is diabetes. So this is where you've lost the ability to sense glucose and release insulin inside of your body. So you have to rely on insulin injections. And what we're trying to do is develop a bioprinted pancreatic tissue that could be transplanted into the body so that it could replace that function that has been lost and take people off insulin, and generated a lot of great data there and signed a landmark deal with Novo Nordisk last year worth north of $2.6 billion. So that was a big moment for us in terms of, again, turning science fiction into science fact. And over the next couple of years, we'll be bringing these product candidates to first in human trials, which is exciting for us. But this is a platform technology that allows us to create a whole variety of different tissue therapeutics for different diseases. And so that's also a big challenge for us internally, is thinking of where to apply the technology. And the great news, or the great problem, is there are an abundance of opportunities for us to focus on, but therein lies also the challenge for any platform technology, is where do you focus on first? And so outside of diabetes and obesity, we also focus on liver disease. So liver is also another big challenge, where your liver is responsible for over 500 critical functions. And many diseases are actually associated with the loss of one function or two functions, but the rest of the organ is actually working. But the only treatment for many of these diseases now is donor organ transplantation. And so you have to take a brute force approach, take an organ from a donor, replace it with inside of your body, and live with immune suppression. That's if you are able to get access to one of these organs, and of course you have to live your life with immune suppression. And so what we're doing is we're developing liver tissues that could replace the one function, the many functions that have been lost inside of your body, but not having to replace your entire liver. And so this could be a liver tissue that's implanted under your skin through a minimally invasive approach that would essentially avoid the need to replace your organ, but address that malfunctioning part of your organ. So our biggest challenge, in a nutshell, is turning sci-fi into reality, and we've been making a lot of progress towards that, and also applying the technology in a sequenced approach to build one success after the other.
Himanshu, I wanted to ask you, you're traveling across the region. What is the scene like right now with different governments Qatar recently announced a $1 billion fund. There is a lot of interest in VC funding and startups. How do you evaluate what you see across the region? And do you think they need to do more, the governments?
In terms of?
In terms of fostering a climate and environment where you have a lot of tech startups.
Absolutely. So as an entrepreneur, my primary job is not fundraising.
Yeah.
My primary job is to solve someone's pain point. And if that pain point is scalable enough, then money will follow. Someone will pay for it, right?
Yeah.
And if someone pays for it, then of course investment will also follow automatically from there. So going back to your point, Zainab, I think over the last week, I've had many discussions in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, and now here. And what I'm seeing is increased propensity and inclination to basically understand the new AI technologies, right? I mean, each of those countries have their AI mandates. In our case, we also focus on food security mandates. So,
which is a big issue for this region, food security.
Absolutely. So I would have not imagined, 6 or 7 years ago, that in the first trip itself, a tech startup founder will get meetings at the highest level. So clearly something is changing in all these three countries. So that's one. The two is, of course, the question is, can this increased interest and enthusiasm convert into dollar values eventually, right? And that's where, of course, we need to see when rubber hits the road and what kind of social infrastructure, can we understand the labor laws really well in these countries? Can we understand the contract laws really well in these countries as startup founders? Because it's very simple for us, at least in Silicon Valley, to sort of sign a deal and we're good, right? But then, and once that is done, I think raising money will be easier, like very easy from these regions.
I want to ask you the same question, but in a different way. What should governments of the Gulf who have the ambition to build up tech hubs do? Where do they fall short?
That's a very good question because, as you know, Gulf countries rely on traditional business, oil and gas mostly, and it's part of nation transformation. And oil and gas, we don't know how long until it's been disrupted as a business. The money is there, and you have a premium customer. As example, we became profitable in our third year. The customer is willing to pay here in Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia. It's good customer base, not that big, but they are willing to pay. You have a money. I believe right now what is missing is experience, venture capital people who actually can build this conversation between the money and the entrepreneur. That is missing, especially in Qatar. I'm talking from my experience as we basically paved the way. Snoonu is the first company close Series A, and the only actually, and the first to close Series B, and the only as well. We closed last year total income $300 million. I mean, this is how we scale. We consider ourselves when it's come to income in starting in Qatar, we are almost 95%. So we know what is challenge here, but here is where I believe VCs is not there, but also quality of founder is missing here. Why? Because majority of the founders here, they came from universities, they came from government or corporate entities. They never saw PayPal Mafia, they never saw Kareem. They don't know what is being in a startup and how to build the startups. So if the VCs is here, we have a big chance to build fail or success as well.
Yeah.
Startups and the exit will happen. That exit can bring the quality founders. And of course, the other option, which the best option at the moment, is to open and this is happening now, is to open this country to founders from different places in the world. Come to this country, start your amazing idea, and we're gonna fund you. So this is the thing. The founder and the VC is missing in the ecosystem here.
In many ways, what you mentioned, there are hurdles that other countries overcome. and Silicon Valley is full of engineers from India and from China and from other parts of the world. Are you seeing movement across these countries to allow more of this, to try to lure the talent in?
Not yet. So we have 70, I'm talking about Snoonu, we have
Yeah.
70 nationalities from different places, from Arabian, South America until Yandex. So
Okay.
we have everywhere. So we don't have issue with the talent. But here is the issue. The money or the VC or the investor who understand what is tech is not exist in Qatar. They're still gonna make sure you are having this detailed business plan. It's like real estate. They
Yeah.
treat the tech. And this is actually the risk that we have at the moment. So we have to fix the VC. Regulation is excellent. Qatar have 5 entities to register the company. 3 of them have no tax. It's friendly. But the issue is the people want to invest, and they, in the last panel discussion, they were to talk about de-risking or risking. Yeah, they still want to make sure there is no risk, and it's impossible in tech and startups world. So we need to solve this problem. We need to make sure the investor is open that, hey, let me build this crazy product, and let's see. I can share with one experience. I offer one investor 50% of the company 2019 based on $1 million valuation. I said, you know, you are 50%, I'm 50%. And he said, this company is not, come on, this company, it's impossible to be $1 million. It was just idea and app. In April 2020, we invited multiple investor and corporate, and we value the company $5 million, and we would do fundraising $5 million. And they say, it's impossible for you to success, we're not gonna get the money. In 2021 April, we closed Series A, $50 million valuation. In 2 years, 2023, we closed. Actually, our profit last year is almost $10 million. Yeah, which bigger than our total fundraising. In 2023, we closed with a value of $121 million. So those investors now we are thinking, you know, how we missed this opportunity. So there is education with the investor, innovation and tech should be good for investor as well. But I believe education them, and they should know. And there is another problem as well, yeah. If you are, let's say, investor in Qatar, you don't want to see success story for next generation. You don't want to see job creation. If I'm in real estate, who will rent from me? Mostly I need to help other business to grow and generate jobs in the country, so the other business will be also improved. Yeah. So it's investor have to go to that path and learn about, you know, innovation.
Yeah. I'm sure they're disappointed now. They missed on the opportunity. I want to ask you, Ola, VC funds have to raise money. The global environment for fundraising right now is a bit tight. Interest rates are high. How is the situation for VCs in general? Is it easy to raise funds and then take those to deploy them?
So I just wanted to double tap on the question you asked earlier, because one of the first acquisitions, if not the first acquisition in Qatar, came from our portfolio. And the funny thing is, our portfolio company, together with us, had been searching for a company to acquire for over 12 months. And we had searched in the so-called big startup markets. Yeah. And we couldn't find the company with the quality of technology, the quality of founder, and the type of revenues that we wanted. And after searching in probably about 8 different countries, we found the company in Qatar, and it was acquired a few years ago. So even though the ecosystem is still nascent, there are talented founders here building great products, in healthcare at least. The company was called Medi Health, and I think it was one of the first exits in the ecosystem. It was acquired by a Nigerian company. So that's a great example of collaboration between Africa and the GCC, but also a great example of the fact that fantastic technology founders can be found anywhere and look like anyone. And just to talk about the role of government, whenever I'm speaking about the role of government in technology, I always say that actually the biggest tech investor in the entire world is the American government. So in our industry, 80% of new molecules that go into drugs are funded by US government grants. If you look at Oxford and Cambridge, being from the UK, they contribute, as two universities, more to the UK economy than the British Premier League. Everybody knows the British Premier League because it's football and it's loud. But actually, the universities create more value in terms of giving to the economy. When even you look at sort of economic value from the VC industry, almost 25% of net new jobs in America have been created by venture-backed companies. So it's so important for advances in healthcare, for advances in the economy, in new jobs, in stock market capitalizations, that we have an active venture capital industry across Africa and the MENA region, so across Africa and the GCC. So how easy is it to raise funds? Luckily, I didn't raise external funding. I had a liquidity event, like I said, in 2016, so I can fund startups sort of from my own private investment vehicle. We just started raising our venture fund.
But maybe more the industry.
The industry. So we just started taking internal funds, external funds this year. And in terms of the industry, I think it's tougher, but for good players with extremely good track records, people that have returned funds to investors, people that know how to pick great companies, people that have had success in their last funds, I think that this is actually the best time to raise, because in the years of 2020, 2021, there was a lot of confusion. Anybody could raise a venture fund, but now the emphasis is on track record, it is on talented players, it is on people that have, institutional investment committees and have a great process and see a lot of deals per year. So in some ways, I think that this is the best time for talented investors that have run a good shop and have results to show for it to be raising a fund.
Tamer, I want to get to you and ask you about the competition for talent. You're in a very specialized industry, but competition for talent is heating up across the world. What is it like right now? What kind of incentives are startups having to give to try to lure the best and the brightest?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Aspect, we're fully based in Vancouver, Canada. We have over 125 people. Most of them are PhDs / MDs. And the number one thing that we found in terms of being a powerful tool for attracting people is creating the best environment for them to innovate. And that also includes hiring the best people, because the best people want to work with the best people. And so it's this positive feedback loop. And so we're very, I would say, strict in terms of who we allow to come into the company, because we want to make sure that we have the best of the best. So our interview process is, I would say, difficult, but we make it that way, and it's actually owned by our own kind of people, that process, so that we continue to attract the best of the best, and the best are hiring the best of the best.
But you don't face situations where there are people that you really want to take, and then somebody else snaps them away?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that these are all sort of the different challenges. The opportunity that we have is we're, of course, in a niche opportunity, and there are very few people working on this around the world. And so people who want to make a difference in this particular area will come from Japan or from the US or from other parts of the world, which we've seen. But I think this is something that all companies are having to face right now, is how do you be competitive, but more important than competitiveness, because money isn't the biggest challenge for good companies. Good companies will have capital to provide competitive packages. It's more so the environment that you provide for people that are not just developing an app. The people that we're attracting to the company are people who truly want to discover something that's Nobel Prize worthy and develop something that's going to cure patients. And so you have to go above and beyond just here's a hefty paycheck. I think that if it were just that, frankly, it would be easy for us. Yeah.
If I may just add to Tamer's point, I think he talked about the mission part of it, right? And one example I had, one of the best interviews I had ever taken for talent was this amazing engineer from Mexico who was also interviewing for Google and Netflix. And I asked him, why ClimateAi, right? And his answer was, Mexico has been dealing with 4 months of drought. I have not showered for the last 3 days. I come from a rich family because there's no water available. Yeah. And still you're asking me this question? Yeah. And he joined us. Like, he's been an amazing talent for us. And one quick thing is, there's suddenly this cliche globally, right? You have to have the A talent into your company, right? I think, and that's my personal philosophy, as founders and CEOs, our job should be to have the right mix of A talents and B talents into the company. And if we can help this B talent develop into an A talent while they're in the company,
Yeah.
is when you actually make a difference in their lives too.